Moby Dick is a 1951 book by Herman Melville, also subtitled Or the Whale. It's a cataclysmic, classic, kind of a classic American novel in the sense that the author's very much American. I believe he's from Boston area, New England, and kind of makes me a little bit feel better, sometimes. Or he's from New York, I'm sorry. But yeah, it makes me feel a little bit more kind of comfortable calling myself American, in that there's sometimes that there's sort of baggage, I guess, that comes with like some of the bad kind of literature. Like there's not, and of course, like I think I might have mentioned this to do with like different, just because you're a certain nationality doesn't make you necessarily, obviously, prone to be a better writer necessarily. Although the Germans have kind of tested that a little bit. Like there's so many dang Germans that are expressly talented, but that's, I think it's like a, I don't know, art imitates life kind of thing. I'm not sure chicken for or the egg came first on that one, but all I'm saying is that sometimes like you find weird coincidences. Like I didn't really think there was really much of anything that came out of Pittsburgh, but I guess Gertrude Stein did. Andy Warhol was also born in Pittsburgh, and interesting that they actually kind of makes me feel a little bit stupid sometimes, because there's actually like a bridge named after him in the museum, although it's not like as big as like the Natural Museum, Carnegie. But yeah, the contributions were big enough, I guess, that warranted all that stuff. So, but yeah, anyway, so the Moby Dick is basically about a guy named Ishmael. Yeah, call me Ishmael. Let's see, first title, one of the most famous opening lines of all time, and he is basically going on a quest, on a whaling quest, not quite at his behest, but of that of the crazed Captain Ahab, who lost his leg to none other than a freaking whale that he named Moby Dick. And there's the whole while there is a spiritual and kind of material, physical battle of the of this whaling crew against Moby Dick, which might very much symbolize like God, the creator, like the man's battle with God, like Jacob wrestling with the angel is very the archetypal kind of, I've wrestled with God kind of, Israel, I will call you Israel kind of, to such an extent that there's like a, you're, that there's something taken from you. So there's a lot of thematics here. I think that's why it makes it so good, and why it's pervaded for so many years. Like as long, like just like with Frankenstein, because Frankenstein's so, the theme of it is so, it's both age old, and it's like something that you see even today with like like Poor Things, so like a bit of Frankenstein using that with Lanthimos, Yorgos Lanthimos. Yeah, it's really, but it's based off a book, like the Poor Things by, I can't remember, is it a British author, but yeah, great movie, definitely one of my favorites of at least 2023. I'm not sure. Definitely up there. Probably, if I'm gonna make another top 10, I'll probably will add that, along with Beau is Afraid, which I might. Part of me wants to like, do certain things with movies, but like I feel like if I do too many movie stuff, I'll start establishing myself down the domain of just cinema, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying anything against people like YMS, like Adam YMS, or anybody like that, but I do feel like I'm best probably doing literature. So anyway, but yeah, speaking of movies, there are plenty of Moby Dick movies, just like as there are with Frankenstein. Like it's just, there's probably going to be like, as far back as maybe even like, as far, I don't know, as far as like Family was invented, because came out in mid 18th or 19th century. So, but yeah, it follows Ishmael is a kind of an average Joe, and it's narrated by him too, first person account, and he kind of gives almost like an not unreliable, I'm not sure. I think kind of like he's almost symbolizing this. Almost remind me the way that Cormac McCarthy narrates Blood Meridian, with the people that were there, that took part, that are a little bit less crazed than the individuals taking place, that were able to kind of create a narrative that wasn't so partial or too, whatever. So that is also, there's a, watching this interesting lecture some time back on the parallels in the Great American Literature by, is it Harvard or Yale courses, I think. They have free courses up there. You could just look up Harvard Yale YouTube courses, like on the literature series and stuff, and they have this like great like 10-piece, maybe 12-piece series on the great American literature of like but they also include, I think it has Nabokov, which I'm not quite sure, but um oh yeah, because Nabokov is like kind of like Russian American, but yeah. Um yeah, but they talk about like Cormac McCarthy, Herman Melville, and somebody else in there, I can't remember. But yeah, I was talking about the parallels of like Moby Dick with the beginning when he's in Cape Cod. So there, I think, or somewhere in Massachusetts, and Ishmael travels there to go on a whaling voyage, and like he's ready to kind of like give his. I mean, there's a lot of anticipation, and um, so when he goes, he's in an inn. Right off the bat, I'm getting kind of biblical kind of analogies here of like he ends up going with this super tattooed guy, Pequod, who is a Native American. I think he's like native slash tribal, some kind of tribal, indigenous American that has tons of tattoos, and he's described as being a cannibal, but I'm not sure if he's like a just descended by cannibals or if he's like truly a cannibal. But yeah, he is a. They both attend a meeting, or I'm sorry, a sermon by this uh, crazed kind of pastor, preacher guy named Father Mappy. Mappy? Yeah. And he talks about Jonah, like the, being caught in the belly of the whale and that kind of, the age old tale of Jonah, right? And how it's basically a warning, almost indictment. Like he's like, this is um, talking about how that there's like clear parallels between the ship of like Jonah being caught in the whale and like they obviously Moby Dick being the whale, and this it doesn't really take a expert to see how thematic that is on that. So anyway, so he goes on this with Pequod. He goes to a oh, that's their whaling ship. So Pequod, Queequeg. I always got that mixed up because like Queequeg was the native guy, and then Pequod is the name of the ship. So christened, I guess. So yeah, they go to Nantucket, and Ishmael goes with Quaker. They own these ship, I guess, yards, I guess, that have like different whaling things, and they talk a lot about like tons of time devoted to like the very detailed kind of summary and like assessment of like the knots and like the ropes and like the exact knots it took them. There's like tons, like pages, but it still felt like it wasn't like wasted, like like it felt like, well, I mean, on a ship it really made you kind of feel like you were present in the moment on a ship with like how many knots and things. I mean, tying a knot is like is like a kind of one of those skills that young men, especially Boy Scouts too. I mean, I wasn't in the Boy Scouts, but I do know that there was like how just different like youth programs going through, like there's how the importance in nature, like in how that can be quite conducive to getting out of like little situations, like tying, like the difference between tying a bowline and like a granny's knot. Like there's like, I think he goes about like the differences between all these knots. And so anyway, there's also, he meets onto this ship, the Pequod, with a crazed Captain Ahab, who is described as a grand and ungodly but godlike man. Interestingly enough, like ungodly but godlike. Again, I'm getting Cormac McCarthy vibes, but yeah, there's the contradictions between that of him being like so mad and like bent on revenge, yet at the same time there's something like almost biblical about it. So, and there's also when they go on, they are hired onto the ship, and they leave on a very frigid Christmas Eve, and yeah, Ishmael goes on to just talk about a lot. You talk about knots, but then he starts talking about the whaling, and like he starts talking about how the I think it's called the branch is called cetology. I think ketology. It's a basically in zoology it's uh the history of the whale. So it's like it he's going on and on about like the exact like, type of blubber and like how they mate and like their different how they kind of stay like they how they their modus operandi, I guess, of like how they kind of move around and interact with one another. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, but again, it was exhaustive. Not exhausting, but just exhaustive history. So they go on this Quaker little place in Nantucket, and there's the crew. The crew is made up of a guy named Starbuck, who is a Quaker guy himself, who's a harpooner, or I'm sorry, he's not the harpooner. Harpooner is Queequeg, and because I think every part of the crew, there's crew members, they have their respective harpooner, and then there's his second mate is Stubb from and then there's a happy-go-lucky guy, I think that's and then there's this pure-blooded Indian guy whose name is Greyhead, I think, or Gayhead, and the third mate is Flask, and then they all come from kind of different places of the world, and it's like an interesting way they all interact. And but yeah, they end up going to basically, as the story progresses, it descends like bit by bit with Ahab getting increasingly infatuated and like hell bent on capturing this whale. Like he is like first it starts out he seems like a little bit rational about it. He's like, well, first we're gonna set for this place, and get this whale, and we're gonna I think he describes it as a doubloon, I think, whale or something, or and then he as a signification of getting this nail, getting this whale, he actually like nails this gold thing onto the mast, and like it's like to kind of like as a way of like promising, like a pinky promise beyond. But yeah, he starts off like right from the get go. You get like how emphatic and like resolved he is about it, but then as time goes on, it's like kind of like he's like at least at first he was showing some like sensibility. Who's like he's with reality. He's with everybody. He's like but by the end, I think it's like he's like so unhinged with this like lust for just like vengeance and like and resolution and and capturing this danged whale that he ends up really just kind of like compromising the safety of everybody aboard. Like again, showing another parallel of they what was it, like the kind of the lots they drew for Jonah to be thrown off the ship. It was like, well, we're gonna have to throw somebody off, so it's like kind of like that gambling, I guess, shows up. This theme of gambling with your luck, I guess, too. So there's also an interesting part where Ishmael gets kind of philosophical too about the whole thing. Like he starts like surveying like these two like whales, dead whales. I think the whale's head. I think, and he starts talking about how one of the sperm whales, I think, and then there's like another one. How he's talking about they both resemble. One of them resembles like a stoic whale or something. He's like, well, this one's more of I don't know, an empiricist or a stoic. And then another whale, he's like, that one's more of a Kantian, yeah, he's way, or a Aristotelian whale or something. I can't remember, but it was pretty funny because, yeah, there's lots of close calls in this too. Like Queequeg almost drowns, I think, trying to rescue a part of the whale head. And then there's like things. Some of them are scared of being buried at sea. We all know what that means. Sleeping with the fishes. But yeah, there's so much to this novel. A lot of different things. It's been like 5-6 years since I've read it, so apologies for being rusty on it. But yeah, it ends with Moby Dick returns out of kind of the blue, and it's like there was like one last kind of fit finale with like basically Ahab wrestling basically kind of literally with the whale, and like he's reaching straight towards him, Moby Dick, and like he was trying to get like there's so much like just brute force being used and trying to like any at any means necessary to get this thing, and like is again like compromising the whole the safety and the security of everybody aboard, who's kind of has to just be complicit with his guy's mad like lust for vengeance. And he's there's Crewpeg ends up dying at the end too, but luckily he's able to not be buried at sea, because he's like, they find his body, I think, and basically at the end Ishmael is floating in the wreckage, I guess, of the Prequad, and he's like he gets rescued and kind of recounts his tale in hindsight, kind of seeing just the madness of everything. So yeah, that is Moby Dick. Very insufficiently summarized, because I should have better kind of talked about the structure of these things, like the structure of like the novel to from. But it's been a critical, like so many critical like literary critics, not just from like Harold Budd, but like all the great authors talk about how Moby Dick was symbolic of so many different things, like and how it transcends not just like the American novel kind of genre, but like it transcends to like almost like a spiritual quest. It's like as a reflection of someone's own kind of turmoil, I guess, in search for meaning, I guess, in a world that doesn't have any, has very little. So yeah, that is Moby Dick. Thanks for watching.